Growing up, my father said out of the frying pan and into the fire quite often as he watched the morning news. As I grew up, I learned what he meant by it. Now, in light of my topic, I chose to exercise my poetic license and change that idiom to out of the frying pan and into the vocal cords. Good day, my name is Zaina Renee, and I stand before you to describe the national, generation-wide pandemic that is vocal frying. I chose this subject because I'm not only a member of this generation, but I am of the female persuasion. Therefore, I encounter and even engage in vocal frying from time to time. Vocal frying sounds a little like this. I utilized academic journals, videos, and blogs, and to further my understanding, vocal frying is easily introduced in a series of ideas, including anatomy, how it emerged, how it's trending, the obvious detriment it presents, and a few perceived benefits. You may be wondering, where does this sound come from, and how does it come out of me? I'm glad you asked. This audio effect is produced in the larynx. According to Rashai Vashista of George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Sciences, the larynx is located within the anterior aspect of the neck, anterior to the inferior portion of the pharynx and superior to the trachea. The larynx is composed of three large unpaired cartilages, the cricoid, thyroid, and epiglottis. The larynx is the conductor of swallowing, respiring, and phonating, or the production of speech sounds. Today we'll focus on the epiglottis. Progress made by Cher Lofer of the University of Hawaii states that the epiglottis functions as an articulator in the production of pharyngeal consonants used in the Hebrew language. It is also involved in whispering. Vashista describes the epiglottis as a leaf-shaped cartilage that moves down to form a lid over the glottis and protect the larynx from aspiration of foods or liquids being swallowed. Essentially, it is the manipulation of the epiglottis that allows us to say words like wrong or thong and make the creaky voice sound known as vocal frying. Now we know the physical origins of this sound. Let's discuss how it emerged in our society today. Veronica Greenwood, a health and medicine columnist for Discover magazine, says vocal frying has been around for a while. In fact, we've captured voice recordings going back to the early part of last century. However, this vocal tendency really began to emerge at the turn of the millennium. Dr. Uwasa of the University of Iowa points out that every state and/or ethnic group has their own brand of English called a dialect. California English has an important role in the emergence of creaky voice. Its spread may also reflect new patterns of geographic mobility among women. It is increasingly common for women, especially young women, to move from one region to another, particularly among urban centers. In the process, they are most likely to encounter and assimilate vocal features not found in their native dialect, and taking these features back to their hometowns. According to a study done with women from the northwestern area of the United States, creaky voice may be an increasingly widespread socio-cultural practice in the speech of young, educated American women of different races. In a group of 14, approximately 6 to 8 will be vocal fryers. This research suggests that vocal frying started on the best coast, or the West Coast, and made its way to the East Coast and is slowly taking over the world. Kevin Sikowski of International Business Times has observed some of our generation's richest talents as vocal frying maestros. Role models like Britney Spears, Kim Kardashian, and Kesha have helped push vocal frying into our culture. When you return to your various living quarters, take a listen to Britney Spears' "Hit Me One More Time, One More Time." You will hear the vocal fry when she croaks the lines, "Oh baby, baby." The first few seconds of Kesha's song "Blah Blah Blah" features it too. And vocal fry is practically the only sound that any of the Kardashians can make. Further research done by Pennick and Speck concludes that young American actresses use creaky voice to enhance their desirability, which is emphasized in American roles and suppressed genuinely in British roles. In his view, creaky voice is apparently associated with female desirability, just as relatively high-pitched voices continue to symbolize desirability for Japanese women. On the other hand, there are people who don't find it desirable at all. Studies show that employers are partial to those who exercise their normal voices. In fact, 800 study participants listened to 5 audio pairings and were asked to select which one was speaking in a normal voice and which one was speaking in a vocal fry voice. Then asked to choose the one that came across as more educated, competent, trustworthy, and attractive based solely on the audio. At the end, participants were also asked who they would hire from the two. More than 80% of the time, study participants chose the normal voice over the vocal fry voice. While the study found that vocal fry is seen as negative for both men and women, women who used it are overwhelmingly perceived more harshly than men. Let's face it, prolonged use is extremely annoying. In fact, Schakowsky describes it as the sort of gritty, sexy voice that 85-year-old habitual smokers develop. Still, many researchers are discovering that vocal frying may have real benefits. Findings of Dr. Yuasa's perception tests indicate that listeners perceived American women's creaky voice as sounding fundamentally more educated, professional, or upwardly mobile, and urban, as well as more hesitant, non-aggressive, and informal than non-creaky voice users. Creaky voice was associated with high social status, which linguists Henton and Bladen suggest stems from the impression that creaky voice is more characteristic of males. Perhaps because of the low fundamental frequency that accompanies it. Henton and Bladen also conducted the first large-scale quantitative study of the social-cultural usage of creaky voice. With 80 informants, 40 males and 40 females, they found that male speakers utilized much more creaky voice than females. Henton and Bladen concluded that creaky voice was regarded as a robust marker of male speech and was used to sound hyper-masculine. However, Holly Epstein-Ohalvo of New York Times feels young women deserve credit for pioneering vocal trends and popular slang. They say that young women use these embellishments in much more sophisticated ways than people tend to realize. All in all, vocal frying distinguishes our generation. In conclusion, now you know the anatomy involved to produce this particular audio effect, how it emerged, how it's trending, the obvious negatives, and few perceived benefits. Now I encourage you to keep an ear open, relax your epiglottis, and leave the frying in the kitchen. Thank you.